I come from Egypt, born and bred, and in Egypt, dinner welcome speeches usually take about 45 to 50 minutes. But my dear friend, the Right Honorable Tobias Elwood said you have 9 minutes, and I shall try to remain with that. Your Royal Highness Prince Turki Al Faisal of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Your Serene Highness Prince Philip of Liechtenstein, Your Serene Highness Princess Isabel of Liechtenstein, ambassadors, Ambassador of Egypt Ashraf Suwailam, Ambassador of the United Arab Emirates Ambassador Abul Hol, and Ambassador of the Kingdom of Jordan Ambassador Abbas. Lords, Lord Baltimore, Lord Brown, Lord Harry, Her Excellency Catherine Egenberger, the Honorable Kwazi, my dear friend. May I also introduce 3 authors that are here amongst us. Ben McIntyre, who is not just a novelist, but a realist. And 2 of his books have been turned into movies. Operation Mincemeat, if I am not mistaken, and an incredible detailed person that I've enjoyed all his novels without exception. 2 other authors that are here today. James Parry, who I tortured for 3 years. Where's James? I can't see. There he is. James and I literally went on a mission for 3 years. His book is here. It's near the door. You are all welcome to take copies of it. It's called Orientalism Lives. James and I went to so many different places to check upon these Orientalist painters. What was their background? What was their life? What the challenges they saw? It was a journey, and it's a great book. Finally, a book that has been published just yesterday, and one that I thank very much Professor Fort. I can't see very much with the lights in my eye, so where is Professor Fort? There she is, right there. And she has been the author of a book about a very interesting, amazing American traveler, Orientalist painter, Frederick Arthur Bridgman. She brings a lot of information about him. So ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, on behalf of my wife Gigi and my daughter Malak, welcome to tonight's event. It's very special. It's very special for many, many reasons. But I just want to mention to all of you that there are 33 nationalities sitting in this room. People from across the world, from America, from all the way to Asia, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Liechtenstein. I can go through a list. And this is something that I've devoted my life to bring people together, something I very much believe in. However, to go back to the subject, I have lived through 2 wars, 1967 and 1973 in Egypt. When I turned 16 in between those 2 wars, my late father called me into his study and said to me, "Son, this is your last allowance." And when I turned to him and I said, "Father, I'm 16, he said, "One more word, you pay rent." I did not say one more word, and I focused on trying to earn money to go to college. As a matter of fact, I came to London, had 2 jobs, went to LSE and SOAS. Both my parents passed very young, at the age of 48 and at the age of 53. My paintings at the home went to my 2 sisters. I knew nothing about paintings. I knew nothing about art, nothing at all. I was focused on making a living. All the way until 33 years ago, I was walking in the streets of Paris, and I recognized a painting in a gallery. It was a place that I knew very well in Cairo. For those of you who've been to Egypt, it was in Khan al-Khalili, in the bazaar. I walked in just to talk to the gallerist, and I couldn't believe it was 180 years old. The painting looked at it as if painted 2 weeks ago. I learned from him for the first time what Orientalist paintings are all about. But that was not enough. I studied Orientalism for 3 years before I bought my very first painting, learning about American, British, and European painters, even Russian, that came to the Orient in 18th, 19th, and 20th century. I focused only on Orientalist traveler painters, the ones that took the journey with a lot of hardship to be able to cross and come Not only, imagine, they did not fly BA, they arrived either by sea or by land. And they needed to get to know the society that they integrated in before they painted their very first painting. These are very different than armchair painters that painted back home in Rome or Paris or Geneva, exotic paintings which they sold to their clients. Orientalist traveler painters, I have great respect for, because they need to be recognized for what they did. They arrived in Egypt, Tunisia, Jerusalem, Morocco, not to colonize, not to find oil, but to learn about the societies that they came to visit. They came to engage, to look, learn, paint, take their paintings back to major capitals in Europe and the United States, and to create for the first time, think about it, first time, bridges of understanding and knowledge. That's what they did, and that's what I respect. John Frederick Lewis, an amazing British painter, he set up a studio in Egypt, and for 10 years, he used to travel between Egypt and Britain. Not only that, he even lived in Sinai. He crisscrossed Egypt. Jerome, the very famous French painter, he crisscrossed the Orient. Bridgman, the American who came from Alabama, he wrote books, lived in Algeria, traveled to Tunisia, and traveled to Egypt. You may have seen some of his paintings outside. And his new book, literally published yesterday, is on that table as you walk out. You're more than welcome to take it. Etienne Dinet, a French painter, a painter who not only shared Bridgman's attraction to Algeria, he lived there, became a Muslim, wrote a book, and went and did a pilgrimage to Mecca. In my humble view, these painters were early globalists. They engaged face-to-face with the societies that they engaged with. And they brought to the Western world detailed paintings of what they experienced and observed. With all due respect to this new generation we are living with, Zoom, Signal, email, and all manners of technology for communication, nothing can exchange for face-to-face contact. It is something that I built my career on. When I get a call from someone, it doesn't matter if it's in whatever place, I will go and meet rather than do a Zoom call. I decline Zoom calls all the time. My staff here get angry at me, but it is what it is. These painters invested time to know the lay of the land and the societies they lived in, something our political leaders can learn from. You observe, I'm sure you follow. We find 2 or 4 or 6 meetings with delegations. Doesn't matter if it's in Istanbul, Alaska, Qatar, Oman. These don't work. These meetings where political leaders meet for 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours, they don't work. Why don't they work? Because these leaders don't know each other. They don't understand each other. I made a mistake myself. I was in China last year. I haven't been in China for maybe 20 years. I went to China, spent 8 days, went to 5 cities. And in my conversations with the Chinese, with an interpreter, when a Chinese person would tell me yes, I thought yes, he was agreeing with me. I found out that yes is not agreeing with me at all. It is saying I understand what you're saying, which is totally different. So what does work? I believe what does work is deep, focused, time-invested engagement, where leaders have and leave behind their egos and their limitless power and focus on humanity, their people's interest and win-win solutions. It's that rather than zero-sum games. War, I believe, is a place where young people who don't know each other, have no idea about each other, kill each other, while by the decision of people who know each other, the leaders, hold and hate each other. As we sit here today, I was asking one of my guests how many conflicts are going on. He said 7. But the fact is, the Stockholm Institute of Peace has just published a piece. There's 50 conflicts going on as we are sitting here tonight. 50. We talk about Ukraine and Russia, we talk about Israel and Palestine, we talk about Iran and United States and Israel, but we forget completely about Congo, Myanmar, Sudan. I can go on down the list. The real solution, in my humble opinion, goes back to knowing each other in a deep and face-to-face manner. An example that is very close to my heart and that I lived is what occurred in Camp David in 1978. In 1978, President Carter brought Prime Minister Begin and President Sadat together for 13 days. Can you imagine leaders sitting for 13 days today? I doubt it. 13 days they sat together, negotiating. The very beginning of the meeting, Begin said, I'm not retiring from Sinai. Israel occupied Sinai at the time. And Sadat said, I'm not going to leave one grain of sand to be left in Israeli hands. And they were fighting the first 6 days. Then my dear friend, told me, who was there, Bill Quant, he said, Carter allowed them to have 1 day of break, no negotiation. Sadat, who used to smoke a pipe, was walking in the woods of Camp David. Begin shows up, no security, no advisors. He's in a three-piece suit. They walk together. Sadat talks about his brother who died in the war. He was a pilot. And Begin speaks about the fact that he doesn't want his grandchildren to serve in the IDF. They looked at each other for the first time as human beings. And that broke the ice. A few days later, they signed the Camp David Accords. And for me, that is an example that basically leaders of today should learn from. Decades later, Egypt and Israel are at peace despite many, many challenges. I believe art is a powerful tool for peace, not in a sentimental way. It changes perception, creates shared space, and humanizes the other. It gives voice when politics fail. Art cannot end wars, but can prepare the ground for serious time invested, face-to-face engagement, to allow shifting of narratives and sharing human connection. I stand here in front of you to close by saying this. If any of you remember November 19th of 1977, a man took a very courageous decision, very courageous. That man flew from Cairo to Tel Aviv, Sadat. He went to break decades of war. He stood in the Knesset and said, I don't want to see another Israeli or another Egyptian die at war. It takes vision, courage, and execution to bring peace. Let me leave you all by saying this. The only thing necessary for triumph of evil is for good people like yourself to do nothing. I sincerely believe that for the sake of our children and grandchildren, I argue that we all should be doing something to be able to bring peace and stability before AI takes over. Thank you very much.